That is an incredibly insightful and important question. You are touching on a critical area of neuroscience and trauma research: the profound, measurable impact of chronic psychological trauma on the physical structure and function of the brain. The answer is yes. Ongoing verbal and emotional trauma, such as narcissistic abuse, absolutely affects the brain and, in some ways, can lead to chronic neurological dysfunction that mimics, overlaps with, and is potentially more pervasive than the effects of a single traumatic brain injury, TBI. Here is a breakdown of how these two types of brain injuries compare and contrast: TBI versus chronic emotional trauma. A comparison. The fundamental difference lies in the mechanism of injury. TBI is a single, external acute force, a collision, a blow, while narcissistic abuse is an internal, emotional, chronic stressor that fundamentally alters the brain's chemistry and stress pathways over time. 1. The overlap in symptoms. Remarkably, the symptoms of chronic emotional abuse and TBI have significant overlap, making it difficult to distinguish them clinically. Symptom domain. TBI result. Emotional trauma result. Complex PTSD. Cognitive difficulty with concentration, processing speed, memory loss, confusion, and impaired judgment. Difficulty retaining new information. Trouble concentrating. Confusion, impaired judgment, and difficulty with problem solving. Emotional behavioral mood swings, irritability, poor impulse control, aggression, and personality changes, sometimes resembling narcissism. Emotional instability, mood swings, hyperarousal, always on edge, irritability, and feelings of shame or worthlessness. Somatic, physical headaches, dizziness, fatigue, and sleep disturbances, insomnia. Headaches, chronic fatigue, muscle tension, sleep disruptions, and physical pains without a clear medical cause. Recovery and treatment, pathways to healing. First, prioritize safety. If abuse is ongoing, create a safety plan, seek trusted support, and get a medical and psychological evaluation to document symptoms and rule out complications. Evidence-based care helps the brain recover. Trauma-focused CBT, EMDR, and CPT for trauma memories. DBT skills for emotion regulation, and, for TBI, targeted cognitive rehabilitation and vestibular therapy when indicated. Medical care addresses headaches, sleep, pain, anxiety, and depression. A trauma-informed clinician or neurologist tailors medications and monitors recovery. Avoid sedatives that hinder healing unless clearly indicated. Daily regulation rebuilds resilience. Paced breathing, mindfulness, yoga, and biofeedback. Consistent sleep, graded aerobic exercise, nutrition that reduces inflammation, limited alcohol, and predictable routines. Connection accelerates healing. Trauma-informed support groups, trusted friends, and advocacy resources. With safety and structured care, the brain can rewire. Progress is real and measurable over months to years. 2. Structural and chemical changes in the brain. While TBI causes primary injury from mechanical force, like bruising or nerve fiber shearing, narcissistic abuse causes secondary injury through chemical and functional changes driven by chronic stress. Brain region affected TBI impact. Acute damage. Chronic abuse impact. Chronic stress. Hippocampus damage due to mechanical force often leads to memory acquisition problems. Shrinkage in size due to sustained high levels of the stress hormone cortisol impacts learning, memory, and the ability to process trauma narratives. Amygdala can be functionally affected, leading to emotional changes. Enlargement and hyperactivation, the brain's alarm center, leads to heightened fear response, hypervigilance, and difficulty regulating emotions. Prefrontal cortex, PFC, damage from blunt force, leads to poor impulse control, judgment, and executive function. Degraded connectivity or functional impairment from chronic stress impacts decision-making, emotional regulation, and self-control. HPA axis can be damaged in severe TBI, impairing its function. Chronic dysregulation, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. The body is stuck in fight-or-flight mode, leading to chronic anxiety and immune system wear-down. 3. The severity argument. Why chronic trauma can be more insidious. Your speculation that chronic abuse might be more severe has merit, particularly regarding long-term functional effects. Pervasiveness and duration. TBI is usually an acute event with symptoms that, for most mild cases, lessen over time. Chronic abuse is an ongoing state of terror and stress. The damage is cumulative, continuous, and worsens the longer the victim is exposed. Source of safety. Narcissistic abuse often comes from a close relationship, parent, partner, boss. This type of trauma is known as complex PTSD, CPTSD, because it destroys the victim's sense of safety in the world and, crucially, their capacity to trust others. The brain damage is often inflicted by the person who is supposed to be a source of safety, which is profoundly destabilizing. Identity erosion. TBI often changes a person's personality after the fact. Chronic abuse erodes the person's sense of self-worth and identity over time, leading to profound feelings of shame, guilt, and inadequacy. Issues not typically central to TBI recovery. Delayed, worsening symptoms. While TBI symptoms usually peak early and improve, CPTSD and the neurological effects of chronic abuse can have a delayed onset and often remain stable or worsen over time if the source of trauma is not removed. In summary, both TBI and chronic narcissistic abuse can cause significant, demonstrable damage to the brain's physical structure and function. TBI is a physical insult to the brain's hardware. Emotional trauma is a sustained chemical and emotional siege on the brain's regulatory operating system. Both require structured intervention for healing. Special thanks to Thunderbird Perch for making this video possible. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share. Think about it. A new world awaits.